Welcome to Beers and Buckets, the podcast for degenerates like us who love basketball and drinking beer, part of the Basketball Podcast Network, where you can get the latest on your favorite teams, what is happening around the NBA and NCAA. Glad to be back. We have another episode this week here, so we're trying to pump out more episodes, especially these conference breakdown episodes. Talking about the Big East today, but before we do that, let's talk a little bit about the NBA now that it started. Dowell, what'd you see? What did you like? What did you dislike?
Paolo Banchero is the greatest player of all time.
The GOAT? That's why he's the GOAT?
Dude, who was his big dunk on? Because that dude needs to retire immediately.
Yeah. It was fun. Best, I think the stat line was best rookie debut since LeBron, which was actually he scored 2 more points than LeBron, but the debut was LeBron went 25, 5 and 5. And then Paolo went 27, 7 and something. I can't remember his full stat line, but just incredible. Obviously, it's against the Pistons, so grain of salt there, but still incredible all around.
That they ended up letting them come back in the game and lost, but Luka Doncic is also just dirty. He had a little up and under kind of move, but everything he does is just so slow, but it's just completely unguardable.
It's like he's going. It's like watching somebody do it fast, but in slow motion, and it's just you can't, like you said, you can't stop it. But it's incredible to me how slow he is. As far as he's not athletic, but he is.
Well,
at the same time. It's weird. Yeah.
His tempo is just all over the place, which is what makes him so good.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right, NBA's back, but yeah, let's jump into the beer review. So, what are you drinking this morning?
This morning, we got Taft's, which is a brewery in Cincinnati. They have, the Frisch's Big Boy, the restaurant. They have a pumpkin pie ale that is, I guess, sponsored by Frisch's or something. I don't know. Apparently, Frisch's is known for their pumpkin pie, but it is 6% ABV, 30 IBU. Again, staying on the spooky season theme. Let's interesting. It's just kind of like a beer that has a little bit of sweetness to it.
It didn't sound that good to me, not gonna lie.
It's very much a ale with pumpkin and not a pumpkin ale.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They're two very separate tastes.
It's like they brewed it right next to a pumpkin pie. Get a little hint to it.
Exactly.
You think of your comparison, I'll go ahead and do mine. I'm drinking Ingenious Brewing Company out of Humble, Texas. It's called the Blueberry Fluff. Kind of reminds me of the off-brand cereals like Count Chocula and stuff like that. Kind of that same thing. They also have Stout Chocula and Franken Froyo. So this is something I guess they do during spooky season, like we said. But it's a sour ale with blueberries and marshmallows. So it's 6.8% and 7 IBU. And one of my highest Untappd ratings, which was 4.13. So we'll give it a try.
Oh, 4.1. Yeah. That might be one of the highest we've done ever.
I think so, because they're typically around 3.2 to 3.8. So let's give it a shot. That's real. Okay. This is the best sour ale I've ever had. I mean, it should be because I paid $21 for a 4-pack. So, which if you think about it, it's oh wow, that's so expensive. But then if you go out and get a beer out to, when you go out to eat, it's $5 a beer. So it equals out. But the marshmallow counteracts the sour part of the ale. So then you're getting all the it's you feel like it's gonna get sour, but it doesn't. It neutralizes it, and it makes it just really enjoyable. This is well worth it. I'm going to finish all 4 of these and probably go back and try the Stout Chocula and Franken Froyo, if we're going to be honest. Worth it. Definitely check it out. I mean, not to be nail on the head here, but probably have to go like Villanova with this one. Honestly, I don't think I've ever compared anything to Villanova on here, so we'll do Villanova. Like this year's Villanova team, you know, the loss of Jay Wright, the sour part is neutralized by the incoming of Kyle Neptune, which is the marshmallow. So there we go. It's working itself out right there. Villanova, and it's blue, so it works out. But
Well
happy
played.
spooky season.
Well played. I didn't mean to do this because I picked it based on the name, but it just so happens that this team is on the KenPom 2023 preseason rankings, is literally the last team in the country, apparently. And it's by like a decent margin. But I'm going IUPUI because it's Indiana University and Purdue University mashed into one, and it clearly just needs to be one or the other. And that's kind of how I felt about my beer, too.
Sounds good. So, all right. The NBA is back. The wait is over. Basketball's back, and so is the tip-off. And so to tip off the season with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, new customers can make any $5 NBA moneyline bet and get $200 in free bets if your team wins. That's any $5 NBA moneyline bet, and then you get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Check this out. In addition to the usual bets, everyone can boost their winnings up to 100% with DraftKings stepped-up same-game parlays. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, opt in, and place a stepped-up same-game parlay today. With payouts bigger than ever, DraftKings Sportsbook is where I go to bet on the NBA. So, Dal, is there any matchup that you're excited to see? Any spreads that you saw that you might put a little same-game parlay on or any moneyline bet on?
So I really like taking unders on people's assist totals for props. Also, Isaiah Stewart is shooting threes now and didn't shoot threes before, and his 3-point prop, like 3-point makes, has been 0.5 pretty much like all through the preseason and the and for their first game. So something to keep an eye on there if Stewie is going to actually start chucking up some threes. That's a pretty good bet. I'm looking at the schedule for today. I think I might like low-key bet on the Thunder against the spread because I feel like they'll keep games close, but they will not win them.
Yeah.
So that might be the move.
Yeah, that might be the move. You're right. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TBPN. Make any $5 bet this week and get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with promo code TBPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See the show notes for details. So during the offseason, we've been breaking down the top 25 teams in college basketball. Well, now we're getting broader and looking at conferences, and today we're going to break down the Big East and give our projected order to finish, our 5 players to watch, our Big East Player of the Year, and our Big East Coach of the Year. And then, of course, like always, we'll end with the hot takes. So, Dal, let's talk about this projected order to finish. Who do we have our number 1 team here in the Big East?
I have Creighton at 1. They get Ryan Nembhard back. They bring in Baylor Shireman. They have Kalkbrenner there to be kind of like the centerpiece, and just feel like that them and Villanova is my second team. I think those two are the kind of top 2. Could see it coming down to one of their head-to-head matchups. But with the kind of newness on the Villanova side, with a new coach and arguably their best player being a freshman, just kind of giving the slight edge to Creighton.
I have Creighton as number 1 as well. This could be possibly Creighton's best team ever. It's probably will be the highest preseason AP Top 25 ranking in school history. They were 11th heading into the season 2 years ago into the season, and that was a school record. So I think they'll probably come in at 8 or 9 this season. So there's a lot of buzz around this Creighton team. They're returning a lot. They added a lot. I think this is going to be a very good Creighton team, and it's gonna be fun. I'm excited for them. Obviously, I'm high on Creighton, and you'll hear that in my preseason or my projected players or 5 players to watch. But my number 2 team is UConn, which I know is kind of probably a hot take, but I think Dan Hurley is probably going to have his best season here in UConn. I think he can reclaim the Big East. I think there's a lot of good talent on this team, and it really goes with Sanogo, probably my favorite player in the Big East, if we're being honest. And then also, I mean, he's the best center UConn had since Andre Drummond, and that's pretty awesome. So, but Jordan Hawkins is going to be really good for them. They lost a lot of production, but I think they replaced it just as well. So that with Tristan Newton from the ECU, I think they get it done. And I think they'll be the second best team in the Big East. What do you have as number 2?
Yeah, so number 2 for me is Villanova. My third team is the one that's a little bit of a hot take, but kind of talking, I have UConn 4th. They in the KenPom early rankings, Villanova comes in at first, 20th, Creighton's at 22nd, and UConn's at 27th. So they're all kind of right in that range of being top 30 teams in that 20 to 30 range. So, I mean, I think the top of the Big East is going to be super, super competitive. So you could almost use them, and in my opinion, the 2 teams that I have next is kind of like that tier where the top 5 teams should all be super, super competitive.
Yeah, definitely. Who's your third team here? This is a hot take.
I was going to say it's a little bit of a hot take. This is the St. John's Red Storm. So I have here. They should have a really, really good defense. I think they'll probably have the defensive player of the year. If it's not Sanogo, the defensive player of the year in Posh Alexander. They were the fastest team in terms of pace of play on offense last year, which makes me just want to kind of give them a little bit of a nod just because they're so fun to watch because they go so quick.
And you're also a huge Andre Cabela fan, so that's why you brought them into the top 3.
He's honestly perfect for that system, though, because he plays like just completely out of control all the time. So the frantic play will do him wonders for his own style of play.
I have Villanova coming in at number 3 here, and I think this is like whatever we talk about Duke, you could also talk about Villanova because they're kind of in the same position here. I think they got the best player in this class, honestly. I think they have the most NBA ready player in this class, and I'll talk about him in our 5 players to watch, but he's the best shooter in this class. And so Cam Whitmore there. But I have him at number 3, and I think that'll be fine, especially for returning. Like, he's not a first-time head coach, but he's coming back, after a while he had a head coach position before. Kyle Neptune's back, and he's gonna be really awesome for Nova. And so we'll talk about him in a little bit more in this episode, but I'm not going to spoil anything else. Number 4 team for me is the Seton Hall Pirates. Seton Hall Pirates. So the Shaheen Holloway, he's right there. Like, I almost put him as for my coach of the year. But
if they finish 4th, he's winning coach of the year. You realize that, right?
Yeah, probably. But I mean, like, I think this is a great team. I think he's a great coach, and it's basically the St. Peter's Peacocks team that made it to the Elite Eight. So if you have that nucleus there going and playing, you have that nucleus there for Seton Hall, that's great. And they also got a couple of recruits there that you probably couldn't get to St. Peter's. So whatever you saw him do with the what's it called, St. Peter's Peacocks, you'll probably see him do it at an elevated level here in the Big East. And so I think he's going to be here for a little bit. And Tyrese Samuel's another guy to watch that he wasn't in my 5 players to watch, but he's somebody that I think is going to be really good for Seton Hall. So who's your 4th team?
I really like the kind of conglomeration of the Seton Hall team that he had or the St. Peter's team that he had plus the Seton Hall team that he brought in. I have a Seton Hall player on my on my 5 players to watch later too, so I can touch on them a little bit more.
One thing, hold on real quick. One thing that I think is interesting now with the transfer portal that you didn't see before is that it really shows who's recruited to a program versus who's recruited to a coach.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So like Shaheen Holloway, the Morehead State guy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, Todd Golden from USF, you know, like different players, like all these teams are going to, like, they're following these teams that showed out in the tournament are following their coaches when their coaches get, you know, like a better position at a better school, right? So like that just shows you the kind of coaches that they are, and that they're not recruited to a program, they're recruited to a coach, and that's a good sign if you're one of the fans of those programs that just got those new coaches. So Seton Hall fans, get excited, because if you have players leaving their school to go to follow this coach, that means he's probably a really good person overall. Yep. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. One place that in the Big East that can kind of recruit to both the program and the coach is Thad Matta's Xavier Musketeers. Yeah. Second guess myself there for a second. Pretty sure it was Musketeers.
No, he's Butler.
Oh, duh. Who's the Xavier coach? They're the same color. Sean Miller.
Yeah, Sean Miller. Yeah.
All right. Well, same point goes. Sean Miller and Xavier. I have them at 5. You also, I think, have them at 5.
Yeah.
I think they're like I said, the top 5 teams are super competitive. I think that Xavier's right there.
Who's your 6th team here?
6th team is the Seton Hall Peacocks / Pirates. And then I have Providence at 7.
So I have Providence at 6, and I just think they're overrated this year. I think the people are going to probably bump them up to 4 or 5 just because of what they did last year. But you and I broke them down earlier in the offseason, and we know that this is like a totally different team. And so Cooley's luck is running out. So yeah, I have.
You could say his lock is running out.
Yeah, that's
Noah Locke is when they brought in. No, they are not deserve that. They are going to be very dependent on how they can get their transfers to mesh, because I actually really liked Noah Locke whenever he was at Florida. Transferred to Louisville, didn't really do a whole lot. Just didn't fit with that team though. And they got Bryce Hawkins, who obviously a big recruit from Kentucky that could do some big things there. Devin Carter from South Carolina. If they can kind of mesh quickly and get up to speed, they could be a force in the Big Ten or Big East.
Yeah, when we did the episode on them, we kind of said that, like, if they can mesh quickly, great. This is probably one of those teams that you see the results 2-3 years from now, which is fine. I mean, you won't have Noah Locke, but that's fine. And I think also in Locke's situation, he went to a Louisville team. Like, he transferred to Louisville last year, and then they literally fired their coach mid-season or whatever. So, you know, like, you're going to be in big trouble no matter what. I have St. John's at number 7 here, mainly because of Andre Cabello, but also I just don't think that they're just that good of a team. Just because you play fast doesn't mean you win fast, if that makes sense. So, prime example is tonight. I'm calling JV offense. We're going no huddle. I know we're going to lose. It's okay, though, because I want to catch the defense sleeping. But
that's the hard hitting analysis you come in to the Beers and Buckets podcast for.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, just because you play fast doesn't mean you win fast. So it is what it is. But yeah, my number 8 team is Butler, and the main reason is because it just feels like it's an NIT at best for Thad Matta here. I'm saving my hot take for him in a second, and like when we do our hot takes, but he will be the center of my hot take. And they didn't really recruit well. They have one top returning player, which is Chuck Harris. Like, he's the best player that's coming back. They got Eric Hunter from Purdue and Ali from Akron, but like they got like 2 good players from the transfer portal, and then everything else has just kind of been not great. So they didn't recruit well. They didn't even hit the transfer portal super hard. It's hard to see this team making the tournament. So probably an NIT team. And right now in the recruiting trail, I just don't see them doing well for next season either, unfortunately. So who's your number 8 team?
I do like the Manny Bates edition from NC State. Yeah. He could be one of the better transfers coming in. But, we'll see where I have them ranked, and then we'll see how I feel about your hot take later, because I feel like the two will align. We're on 8. I have DePaul here. Got Jalen Terry, their returning point guard. He should be good. Got a transfer from Oklahoma, and Umoja Gibson. That should be really solid. Honestly, I think these kind of last 4 teams after Providence, I think there's the top 5 teams. I think Seton Hall and Providence, to me, are kind of like in their own little mini tier. Yeah. And then these last 4 teams are teams that I think will be like struggling to make the NIT even.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can argue any order here, but
yeah, I mean, like the order here really is probably the difference of a game or two. You know, like it's that close, in the instead of fighting for the top, you're fighting for last. I have Marquette at 9, and mainly because they didn't get a single D1 transfer, and they got one recruit that was top 100, and then they got a 4-star, but they had lost 2 double-digit averaging scorers there in Justin Lewis and Daryl Morcell. So like when you're losing that much and you're not replacing it with at least transfers or at least 2 top 100 players, like their top 100 players, Sean Jones, is number 87, and their 4-star is Chase Rice. They got Ben Gold, who's not ranked, and then they got from a NAIA school an 18.7 point per game scorer, and Zach Wrightsill. So they just didn't replace Justin Lewis or Daryl Morcell. It looks like they tried to by committee, but you can't just replace that kind of production there.
Yeah. So if Cam Jones can't take a big leap, they're going to be in rough shape.
Yeah. Who do you have as your 10th team here?
We got the Patrick Ewing led Georgetown Hoyas.
Same here. I have the same team there.
This
is probably Patrick Ewing's last year at Georgetown, if we're being honest. If he makes it through the season. It's
going to be bad. They did get Acock from UConn, which is a funny interconference transfer. But yeah, they're going to be bad. I mean,
we talked about how Marquette didn't really replace. They lost 3 double-digit average scorers, and they replaced it with the 82nd player in the top 100, a 3-star, and just a lot of transfers, but nothing of significance. I mean, nothing. Like Acock, like you said, but that's about it. Also, how many interconference transfers is there in the Big East? Because I feel like there's a bunch between David Jones from DePaul going to St. John's.
Yeah,
and just crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. But yeah. Anyways, I don't see this Georgetown team being very well. I don't even know if Patrick Ewing makes it through the season, to be honest with you. This is not great for him.
It's just, I think the only reason he will is he is one of the 2 biggest Georgetown alums ever from the basketball program. So I think that gives him a little leeway. But
you want to know his overall record at UConn?
I have it pulled up here, so I know it. But
do you have the Big East overall record in 5 seasons, or 5 seasons Big East record?
Yeah, we probably have the same thing.
Anyways, to the listener, Patrick Ewing is 68 and 84 overall, and he's 26 and 63 in the Big East. So not great.
Let me do some math there. Yeah, that's not good.
Not good. So I think this is his do or die moment, and he's probably going to be on the chopping block soon, which is unfortunate. But at the same time, if you're just not a good coach, you're just not a good coach. You should be able to recruit better as a former NBA All-Star. I don't understand how you don't, but if you just can't do it, you just can't do it. Maybe it's just better player than coach, and that's what it's looking like it is. So you lose a lot and you don't replace it well, and that's just not a good formula for trying to win. So my last team is DePaul. We already talked about them a little bit, and your last team is Butler. I just don't think DePaul's that great. They lost David Jones, who was their best player, arguably besides Javon Freeman Liberty, which is the craziest, most patriotic name I've ever heard. He averaged 21.7 points per game, and then David Jones averaged 14.5. And then they lost another Brandon Johnson, who averaged 10.5. Their replacement was Zion Cruz, who's a good recruit. I remember hearing his name for a long, long time, but he kind of slipped in the rankings. And then Gibson from Oklahoma averaged 13 points a game, and then Caleb Murphy from USF, South Florida, that is, from 11.4 points per game. And then they got Errol Penn from Long Island, 17 points a game. So they're replacing a lot. I just don't know if it's going to mesh well. And also just losing a 21-point scorer at the D1 level is going to be really hard to replace no matter what. So, yeah. What do you think? Well, who's your last team?
Butler's my last team. I think they're going to be even worse. And I think the big thing, I think they're going to really, really, really struggle to score points is the big one. I think their defense is also probably not going to be good. But I think for even Georgetown, whose defense will be bad, I think they'll still score a decent amount. I think DePaul will be able to score a decent amount. But Butler is a weird team where they play incredibly slow and they're also bad, which is just a bad combination of things. So I feel like that they will be the bottom rung tier in the Big East this year.
Yeah, I think I have them at 8, but I could easily see, like we said, the last 8 to 11 teams you could just interchange by a game or two, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. I feel like the top of the Big East is very strong and the bottom of the East is so weak. Whereas typically the top of the SEC is really strong, or top of the ACC is really strong, and the bottom is just kind of average. It's unfortunate. It's so polarizing in the Big East here, but let's move on to our 5 players to watch. So,
here, actually, one question before we do that.
Yeah.
Where do you think the Big East ranks in terms of conferences this year?
Oof. I feel like I said, their top brings them so much higher than some of the other conferences. I'd say it's probably let's see here.
They were 4th last year, so it was Big 12, SEC, Big 10. Then the Big East was 4th, and they were better than the ACC.
I think the ACC is going to be 1 or 2, right there. I think they have how many? We talked about the ACC last weekend. They had we said they had 6 tournament teams, something like that. So
6 or 7. Their bottom is just bad.
Yeah, their bottom is very bad, but I think that the top outweighs the bottom there. So I think ACC is probably 1 or 2. I think SEC is probably 3 this year. I think they're down more this year. I think the Big 10 is going to be better. I think the Big 12 is going to – I think actually the Big 12 dropped a little bit because of all the recruits that they lost to the Big 10. So I'd say they're probably – I think I'd say put the Big East probably around 3, I think is where I'm going to land with them being there. I could see 4 depending on which top – which teams kind of flounder from the top, but – If they have 4 tournament teams that are really, they're probably 1 to 3 seeds, which I think they honestly, some of them could be make a 3 seed there. I definitely think that they could be a top conference there. But it's so early to predict that. So this is probably going to age very poorly, and they'll probably have 2 teams making the tournament or whatever. But same with the ACC, but. SEC probably going to have 10 tournament teams, but they all get bounced in the first round like last year. So it is what it is.
All right, let's a Big 10 move.
Yeah. Where do you have them? Where do you have them?
I think they'll probably be the 5th.
The 5th?
I think they'll probably be 5th. I think them and the ACC are pretty close, 4 and 5, just because the ACC has so many teams that are not going to be very good. That kind of drags them down overall.
Yeah. It is interesting though, so with our high school football rankings, they value wins so much that there's a team here that they were like 0 and something last year, and they went this year, and they're 6-1 now. They got a new coach, and they just really turned around. They got the top rusher in the state, whatever, but they lost to another team in our district or in our county that is a really good team that has. If you've ever heard of DJ Pickett, this kid is being recruited by like pretty much every major, college in the state or in the country. I mean, so this Zephyr Hills team is really good. This Pasco team is definitely on the up and up, and they, like I said, they went 6-0 until they went head to head against Zephyr Hills, and for some reason their head to head did not matter because they value wins over head to head in this rankings, and I think that's kind of the same thing. Is like they're going to value wins, but if you don't have any like good wins, like it doesn't matter. So like the ACC going undefeated in the ACC might not mean much if you only played like 3 tournament teams out of it. You know what I mean? So it is interesting what their valuing is. But I'm interested to see, how they value the Big East and really like what these Big East teams are doing out of conference. If they show out in the non-conference, then I think they'll be fine come tournament time. So we'll see though. So let's move on to the 5 players to watch. Give us your first player, Dowell. Who's your player to watch here in the Big East?
All right, so this is just some behind-the-scenes work. Connor went first whenever we were doing this doc, and he took a bunch of the good players, especially good players from good teams. So I tried to go a little bit down the standings in terms of some of the lesser,
because God
teams.
forbid we use the same players, but
Well, yeah, that's no fun. So my first
maybe
one
we should just make the document first, Dowell, instead of me. I'm always making the document.
You say that I could do that, and I very much could, but you
don't.
I don't at all. So my first one, I'll stick with my Big East type, and I'll go Posh Alexander. I think he's going to be the best defensive guard in the Big East. He's a monster in the paint. Shot almost 57% from 2 last year. He gets to the line a ton. He could probably do a little bit to improve on his shooting, both from 3 and at the free throw line. But I think that he is someone that, if my Big East standing prediction is going to pan out with St. John's being that high, I think he's going to have a big year. And I definitely think he'll be one of the more fun players to watch in the Big East this year.
I agree with that 100%. I left him for you there. So there you go. My player, one of my players to watch is the Dama Sinogo. He was 14-4 last 14 points per game, 8.8 rebounds, and I think 1.9 blocks per game. So with an improved roster coming in, I think he's going to be really good. And like a spoiler alert for my Big East player of the year, it's probably one of these 5, and it's probably this guy. So I think he's just going to be really good. But my number 2 player, and we've talked about it a little bit, is Cam Whitmore. Like I said, he's the best shooter in this draft class. He's I think he's one of the more NBA ready players of this class. I don't want that to be confused with what I said earlier. I think he said he's the most. I think he's one of the more NBA ready. He's probably top 5 as far as NBA ready because he's really long. But he's really strong. He's got a good drive, good handle, can defend on the perimeter. There's just not really a whole lot of weaknesses to his game. And he's, like I said, he's probably the best shooter in this class. And we know how the NBA values shooting. So if you have an NBA ready body plus a really good shooter, like I think he's going to go top 5. I would not be surprised if he went number 1 this year. So that's just how I feel about Cam Whitmore. I think he's going to be the one that carries Villanova. But yeah, what's up?
There's this man. I don't know if you've seen him, but he's like 7'18", and he moves.
Yeah, Victor
like a gazelle.
I know. But like, my thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if Cam Whitmore went number 1. Probably going to be Victor Wembanyama, but I think Cam Whitmore has the potential. Depends on who has the number 1 draft spot. You know what I mean? If it's the Magic and they luck into getting the number, like they need shooting and they need more NBA. Like they need somebody to pair with Paolo more than they need Victor Wembanyama. But I mean, I would be irate if they took Cam Whitmore over Wembanyama. But it is what it is.
Okay.
But top I said top 5. mark him as top 3, honestly. Cam Whitmore is that good. So, yeah, who's your number 2 player?
Victor Wembanyama is so good. My second player is from a team that we talked about whose coach might get fired, and if my guy does as well as he potentially could and kind of lives up to that potential and gets better, might legitimately save Patrick Ewing's job, and that's Dante Harris. He was the 2021 Big East Most Outstanding Player as a freshman. He's going to be a junior this year. He definitely needs to get more efficient shooting, but he almost he tripled his three-point attempts. He went from shooting about 15 threes to shooting about 45 threes last year, but maintained that percentage as he did it. It's only 33%, so still on the low side. But if he can continue to get more efficient as a shooter and kind of round out his game to complement the playmaking and the defense that he brings, he could really, really, really help save Patrick Ewing's job.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Who's your third player to watch?
Third player is going to be really my only kind of top team player, and that's Baylor Shireman. Kentucky fans wanted him for a long time. He is the former South Dakota State. Are they the Jackrabbits? Are they the ones that are the Jackrabbits?
Yep.
Yeah. So looking at his KenPom page where they have conference rank is just hilarious because it's 1 or 2 in essentially every shooting category that he has.
Yeah.
Took 173s last year and shot 46%. It's the 17th best mark in the country. So he's coming in already to a loaded backcourt at Creighton.
Yeah.
And should give them a ton of versatility there. He's 6'6", which kind of gives him some length for them to be able to play 2, 3, potentially even 4 guards and still hold up at least somewhat on the defensive side. So he is definitely one of the players that I'm most excited to watch. And he won't be the best player, in my opinion, on Creighton's team, but he might be the most important.
I agree with that. I have, for my third player, is Trey Alexander, also from Creighton. He joined them late last year in the recruiting circuit. I want to say it was nearing November. That's how late he joined Creighton. Yeah. He had been committed to either Oklahoma or Oklahoma State. I can't remember one or the other. Decommitted and then opened up his recruitment, and they snagged him there late. So it was really late in that he's going to have an increased role in the system. He averaged 7.7 points per game, so that's already pretty good for somebody that joined late and didn't have a huge role. His role is going to be increased. I think he's going to be a top 3 player for Creighton this year, and I think he's going to be really good. My number 4 player to watch is Colby Jones. He's the most versatile player on Xavier's roster. He's my pick for Big East Defensive Player of the Year. He's super efficient and plays really well in space, so I think he's going to be, like I said, the most important player on Xavier's roster. You're muted, bud.
It's so difficult to not be muted. I was going to say one thing on Trey Alexander is he is one of the few guards for Creighton that has the ability to really put pressure on the rim and get people into foul trouble, which is going to be really, really helpful for them this year.
Yeah.
All right, fourth player to watch is Kadary Richmond. He is, in my opinion, Seton Hall's best guard. Continue to improve from range. He's already an elite defender, and he is, I think, either 6'6" or 6'7", and is a really, really good playmaker for not really being the person that's the main person running the point.
Yeah.
Which I think is going to be super, super helpful, especially Shaheen Holloway's offense, just the way it runs. Being able to have that secondary playmaker to really move the ball and get some assists is going to be huge. Transfer from Syracuse was where he was his freshman year. So this will be his second year at Seton Hall. So I'm really high on him. I remember Travis Graff was weirdly super, super high on Kadary Richmond whenever he was in high school coming out. So shout out to Graff.
Yeah. Who's your last player here as the 5 players to watch?
So actually not a player. It's going to be Kyle Neptune, the incoming coach at Villanova, coming from their system, went to Fordham for a year, now is back. I just think Cam Whitmore is arguably their best player. They have a ton of talent. They're going to be a top 20 team. But I think he might be the single most important piece on that Villanova program in how they translate year one with him. And if he can kind of maintain that Jay Wright continuity and just keep things rolling from where they are, the world is their oyster. Kind of deal. But
my last player to watch is Ryan Kalkbrenner. He led the defensive charge for Creighton last year. He'll carry this team this year. Probably, he could rival Kobe Jones or Dante Jones or Harris for defensive player, or not, Posh Alexander for defensive player of the year for the Big East, just because he averaged like 2.6 blocks a game last year. So you could probably see that increase maybe. That's interesting. That's a strong number if you're just the casual college basketball listener or follower. So definitely a great, he also could rival some of our guys that we have listed for Big East Play of the Year. So while we're mentioning it, Big East Play of the Year, I have Adam Sanogo. Dowell, who do you have for your Big East Player of the Year?
Mine, I think there are really only two people that are kind of in contention here, especially with it's kind of weird that in a sport that seems to be skewing more towards the shooting side, that we've seen Nikola Jokic now win back-to-back MVPs in the NBA. Oscar Tshiebwe and Amanda Bacot and Drew Timme were like the three main guys for Player of the Year last year. And I think Adam Sanogo and my pick, Ryan Kalkbrenner, are the two main people for Player of the Year in the Big East this year, and they're obviously both bigs. So funny, kind of as the game seems to be opening up more spaces, infinitely more important, shooting, all that stuff, that we're still kind of in college basketball are relying still on the big men to be kind of the moving force. And I think they're the two best players in the Big East.
Yeah, I think that the main thing behind it is that you need an anchor and you need somebody that can do everything that needs to be done down the paint. So their value is just so much higher than a wing that can shoot, because you could get another wing that can shoot. You know what I mean? It's not many people know how to play the center position anymore. So those guys that do it well are very fun to watch. Especially if they do it in a more nuanced way than just being aggressive and being big. Those guys have finesse to their game. All three of those guys that you mentioned.
And they also open up the floor for those shooters. So if you have a guy Sanogo is a perfect example, Kalkbrenner as well, but Sanogo in my mind is absolutely this, where he is the perfect person to put in the paint and let four guys be around him. He is so good at controlling his area that he can play with those four guys on the perimeter and hold his own. Which just allows you to have a ton more space.
So let's move on to the Big East Coach of the Year. I think I already mentioned mine. I think it's Kyle Neptune. But if my projected finish is accurate and Seton Hall finishes fourth or higher in the Big East, then Shaheen Holloway's gotta take it there for Coach of the Year, Big East Coach of the Year, which I think is fair. But I still think Kyle Neptune's a really good coach and will do great with this Nova team, like we said. Who's your Big East Coach of the Year?
I think the narrative could be something that really helps both Shaheen Holloway and Kyle Neptune being their first year in the league. They'll have a ton of support. Mine, got to keep with the St. John's love. If they finish third in the Big East, then Mike Anderson has to be my pick for Big East Coach of the Year.
I like it. Especially if they finish third. Yeah.
If they finish third, he has to make a choice.
Yep. I agree with that. Big East hot take. So we're wrapping things up here. Go ahead, Dal. Go ahead and make your hot take here.
So, if you are a major Ken Palm subscriber, I don't think this is as hot of a take, just because there are, like you said, a bunch of teams in that kind of 20 to 30 range. But my hot take is that 3 Big East teams will make the Sweet 16 this year. if I was predicting, it would be the 3 teams that have to finish in the top 3 there. But really, any of those top 5 teams have the potential to be able to do it. But I think the way that these teams are set up, the influx of talent that they can get that they wouldn't normally be getting on the recruiting trail from Power 5 programs that bring a level of athleticism. Because the thing with Big East teams even, and definitely the conferences below this are, when they match up against a team from the SEC or the ACC, they're just out-athleted. And it's not that they aren't as good at basketball. They're just like bigger, longer, faster. So the transfer portal and the way that some of these teams are set up, I think they're uniquely designed to be able to kind of negate that part of the difficulty they've had in years past. So I think three Big East teams make the Sweet 16 this year.
No, I like that. I mean, I could name the 3 off the top of my head, probably be different than your 3, but Creighton, UConn, Villanova, I think those 3 all could make it very, very easily just with a good matchup there. Not putting St. John's in the Sweet 16, though. Sorry, bud. Not doing that.
Hater.
My Big East hot take right now, I think the over-under of Thad Matta retiring from Butler is set at 2.5 years. Not actually, that's what I'm setting it at, and I'm taking the under. I just think what they're doing, they're not going to be good this year. And right now, I said, like I said, unless they hit the transfer portal hard next year, they're not recruiting well. Thad Matta, I think, is out of touch. I think the game's passed him by, and I just don't know if he's going to be very effective here at Butler in the next 2 years. And Butler can't really afford to wait on him, if that makes sense. So,
okay, I was all in on this. Guess how old Thad Matta is?
He's got to be in his early 70s.
Brother, he is 55 years old.
What? That dude looks like so old. Oh, my God. No way. That is insane.
I'm shocked right now.
Yeah. I'm mad, honestly. I feel like that's like false advertisement.
You're getting mad at the guy for aging poorly?
He's aged so bad. Like, he's looked like he's been 60 his entire life. Like, 10 years ago when he was coaching at OSU, I was thinking he was like maybe in his 50s or 60s. Like, that's insane. Oh, my God.
That makes me think they might give him a little more time and that he won't be as likely to retire.
I still think I don't think he's a good coach, and I think that's why they'd pass him by. But, yeah.
Well, then, if that's the case, did you say retire or did you say retire or fire? You said retire.
Let's say retire or fire. Resign.
Okay. He is gone. He is gone from Baylor or from Butler in 2 years.
I mean, like, if you're watching on YouTube, this is Thad Matta.
Brother, he is old.
He is old, but he's only 55. What's your source, Dowell? What is your source?
The source that we were told not to use in high school, that was the biggest lie that anyone has ever told.
He's a year younger than my mother, and my mother looks way better, like aged way better than he did. Oh my gosh, that's insane. Oh my. This guy, I mean, he looks like Gene Hackman.
This means that his first year at Ohio State, he was like 36.
I can't wait to talk to my dad about this. I'm like, hey, Dad, how old do you think Thad Matta is? Turns out you're only 4 years younger than Thad Matta. Like, that's insane. Oh, my gosh. Oh, wow. Well, hopefully we all age better than Thad Matta. Let's just end it with that.
That's a very low bar to clear.
It's a very low bar. But if you're aging at his rate, you're like, oh my gosh, that's insane. All right, fair. So let's end this thing here. Instagram and TikTok, you can follow us at Beers and Buckets Pod. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like, rate, leave a review, share this episode. If you're on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and leave a rating. That'd be absolutely awesome. Leave a review. We'd love to read it and get positive feedback, constructive criticism, whatever you want to leave. We're fine with it. We're grown men. We can take it. And then check out the Basketball Podcast Network on Twitter for more shows like this one. There's plenty of great content. Those guys are awesome over there. So go check them out. This has been awesome. I love doing this conference breakdown episodes. They're really fun. I had a great beer today, and I can't wait to go eat so I can counteract it because it was 6.8%. And yeah, and I haven't eaten yet today. So
what conference are we doing next?
Big Ten.
All right, Big Ten. Hopefully my beer will be better than it was today, and I will enjoy it more.
Yeah, we'll do the Big Ten. Dowell and I have been talking about it. We're trying to get it early next week if we can for you guys. So we'll start pumping out 2 episodes a week. It's going to be fun. Yeah, what's up?
Speaking of that, if you, especially on YouTube, because I know this is a thing, subscribe and hit the little notification button so that you get notified whenever a new episode drops. Because we have been kind of not as consistent with our episode timings in the off season as we're doing these. And like you said, you're going to try and catch up. So just hit that little notification button so that you are getting alerted whenever we post, so you can get it into your ears.
Yeah, we're about 3 weeks out from the regular season. We'll be back to a consistent schedule. So look out for that. I'm excited for our Shark Tank upsets and our must-watch games of the week. It's gonna be so fun. I can't wait. So
we've got a little project that I've been contemplating doing that I'm going to try and get set up to help with our must-watch games of the week.
I love it.
Be on the lookout for that as well.
I love it. So you guys have a great week. This has been The Bottom Line because Connor said so. Take care, people.
Peace.